The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is the mayor of Owen Sound, Ian Boddy. And, we always got stuff to talk about. Ian, welcome. Good to see you again.
Well, it's been a couple of months because we got interrupted by the federal election, so we will have about 2 months or more worth of stuff to talk about.
Ian, we've only got an hour, so I'm sorry.
Oh.
But you're absolutely right. It has been 2 months because we were interrupted by the federal election campaign. Elections can be notoriously inconvenient, can't they?
Well, the municipal one, I know exactly when it's going to be every 4 years. I know what day it's going to open up, what day it's going to end, and if you're running, it can be an inconvenience. Your job at City Hall doesn't end, and nor my job at law office wouldn't end, and then you have to run out and campaigning. But of course, those are behind me. So,
right. Well, that's another 18 months away.
Yes.
So we won't go down that road.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of federal elections, Alex Ruff won this riding, Bruce Grey, Owen Sound, and we will have him on in a future show as a guest. What was your take on the election?
Well, I was happy for Alex. I think he's been a good representative. He's done a couple of bipartisan things that I think, helps build fences. If you're in opposition, you're supposed to oppose. We get that. But sometimes it can be nasty. And I think Alex co-presented a bill a few years ago to recognize Emancipation Day. And then, of course, more recently, the hard work that he did to get some of our supporters, Canadian supporters in Afghanistan, out and safe before they went public. So we've got great representation with Alex, so I was glad to see him get returned.
Yes, indeed, and it was he certainly does a lot in this riding as well. So it was good to see. It was good to see. But federally, the national picture, do you have a comment on that, Ian?
Well, from a municipal level, I don't know how much changes, but certainly from a municipal level, there's funding from housing that we would like to see trickle down and actually get here. Housing announcements are wonderful. They look really good in the headline. We'd like to see them. We'd like to see the money get here and get all the way through. And I know some of the funding has worked through CMHC. There's been a developer or two in the area that has taken advantage of that and put in some affordable units and taken advantage of the programs that are offered. The public maybe doesn't know as much about that as they should, but I'm certainly hoping in the next few years as certainly we bring the country together, which it needs to come together. We eliminate interprovincial trade barriers that we've talked about for as long as I can remember, need to come to an end.
Since Confederation. Let's be honest. Since Confederation.
Yeah, a long time for sure. So, looking forward to the next couple of years to see what happens. And I really hope the bipartisan stuff that we've seen more from the States and a little bit in Canada takes a backseat and that we work together given the stress that the country's under. I lived in Edmonton from 79 to 88, so I had a pretty good grasp of the feelings in Alberta, relative to the rest of the country. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I understand. And in fact, Dave, I just shared an email with a friend. 1988, August, I was driving from Owen Sound back to Edmonton, and I was going across Saskatchewan, and on comes CBC radio, which, of course, that's the only radio you can get in many parts of Canada, which makes it important. And beep, 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 on comes the music that it's election night. the polls, and it's 8 p.m. The polls have now closed, and we announced that Brian Mulroney has a majority um, government. So that's just Saskatchewan, still coming in Alberta, still coming in BC. The election was already decided before their votes got counted. So it hit me that night, as an example of why we need to think about the whole country together and realize those types of things happen, and what the feeling is in the West when that does happen.
Well, I think that's very true. There's an old um, joke that in the farmer having his crop ruined by hail and shaking his fist and saying to the deity, "Damn you and damn the CPR."
Yeah. Yeah, you can go back through the history of the crow's nest rate and all those types of things. It also
That's right. That's right. That's right. And there was a lot of stuff, and the whole wheat board thing was a good question, and energy as well. Petro-Canada,
But
those.
during the Depression, an awful lot of money came from Ontario to the prairies to keep people going. I know when I was out there, Syncrude was in the building phase up in Fort McMurray, one of only 2 oil sands at the time. It was the biggest. I worked at it for a couple of summers. Great experience, but it was the Canadian, Ontario, and I believe Quebec government that put money into that, not Alberta, not Saskatchewan. So, it works both ways, and certainly the federal government paid for a pipeline recently to the West Coast. Some of that stuff gets forgotten, but we need to look at the big picture and work together.
Very true. I mean, I lived in New Brunswick for 8 years, and I could see the benefits of what they called equalization payments. That what the have provinces paid to the have not provinces, of which New Brunswick was one.
Yeah.
And it actually did add to jobs. It did add to the prosperity and the health of the province. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yes, definitely.
Double-edged sword. Well, we've been debating that in this country for what? Well, since Confederation. So I guess we'll probably keep on debating it.
And out of the 2 months of topics that you and I have, that one wasn't one of them.
You're right. You're right. So let's jump into the other big controversy, which has blown up in the last few weeks, and that's the strong mayor powers issue. And that came out of left field for most people. We didn't expect it. Nobody knew this was going to get dropped on us. At least the 190 odd municipalities, I gather, didn't know.
I think it was 170.
170. Yeah, 169, 170.
So the strong mayor powers were given to Toronto and Ottawa first. And to me, they make sense. But then they added them to a number of others, and I've forgotten the numbers. So you think Kingston, London, Hamilton, Sudbury, Windsor, not the big cities, but big cities. So they went to them. With all of those big ones, there was housing numbers that were given, how many houses they wanted built. Did I say Kitchener? I was just thinking about Kitchener, Waterloo, or Waterloo region. And there was funding promised to reach those goals. We didn't get that. We just got on April 9th that we had till the 16th. Well, they didn't actually say that we were able to get feedback, just that they're accepting feedback until comment period ended April 16th. Not that they really listened to any of the comments. And bang, in it came May 1st for approximately 170 small municipalities. So any municipality that has 6 or more councillors. So within Grey County, only Chatsworth didn't get it. All the rest of it got it. And I don't know. It wasn't needed, wasn't wanted. We wanted to be fully educated on it, make an educated decision. So, we heard from an expert and got an opinion on it and didn't do a knee-jerk reaction, and then responded appropriately.
One of the things that Owen Sound made a decision around, which I'm still struggling to find an explanation for, is to designate powers back to council and the city manager through mayoral decisions. Can you explain what that means?
Well, and again, some of the bigger tiers, I know lower tier Waterloo did this and a number of others. So the powers that are given in the strong mayor powers to the mayor, such as hiring the city manager, it used to be full council. So I designated the power from the mayor to full council to make those decisions. The mayor can appoint councillors only to certain committees, and we gave that to council, I think. Yeah, we did. Well, we just haven't exercised that, won't exercise that. The other one, I guess, is that I designated my power to hire senior staff to the city manager to continue to do what we've always done. So each meeting I will have to, sorry, Dave, each meeting before at the end, I will have to sign something and hand it to the clerks, and it will be a form presented saying that I agree that I'm not going to veto any of the bylaws that were just passed that night. And I have to do that within 3 days. At our council, a 5-4 split is pretty darn rare. Usually, if it's a common sense thing, the majority of council, if not all of council, are going to come to a common sense decision. If it's a 6-3 and I as mayor vote against it or feel strongly against it, it means that I'm not right. If 6 councillors say this is the right way to go and I disagree, I'm not going to decide my own that I'm going to jump that. It means that I'm not on the right side of the fence on that one, and that's happened twice in 11 years, maybe once that I can think of, maybe twice. I don't know. So it doesn't make sense for me to have some power to veto a council majority decision. And with that, I still have to bring it back. We'd still have to have at least 3 councillors, so 4, the mayor and 3 councillors to bring it forward. And that's not really what democracy is about. Certainly with our council, we've got 9 people that are hanging around 9 different social communities, social groups, have different opinions. And I think that's important, representing the city, that 9 people with 9 groups of influence come together to look at things and act on behalf of the citizens of Owen Sound, overseeing the government of the city of Owen Sound.
So you said that you will have to relinquish these powers every time.
Have already.
But you will have to sign that.
The powers I've already that was we did that on as soon as we got the powers on May 1st. I signed those documents already. But each meeting I have to sign something stating that I will not veto the bylaws that were just passed that night.
So these are the changes in the procedural bylaw, which governs the actions of the council that has to be made. Because I heard some conversation about the changes to the procedural bylaw, and does this devolve?
The procedural bylaw will have to be changed to meet the legislation.
Right.
So I guess it would be by regulation, not by statute. Doesn't matter. The provincial government's decisions overrule council. Mm-hmm. And overrule the procedural bylaw that we approve, the council approves to follow. So we would have to amend our procedural bylaws to match or respond to what the province has decided.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's complex stuff, and it's not the kind of discussion we're used to having, because
well, procedural bylaws we look at all the time, probably annually. Like there's certain stuff that we do that, and it isn't necessarily something that the public pays attention to, because it doesn't show up on their doorstep. It's more how the council and the government function on behalf of the citizens. And we've got, certain rules of procedure that they're there that the chair, being the mayor, can use. But with the councils that we've had, we don't follow them strictly um, because we function. Like, there's, if we ever got into too far down the road into a lack of respect, sometimes we don't always agree, and we've got to be careful that we don't butt heads inappropriately on that. And that happens from time to time. But basically, I'm not a real stickler to the rules because council works. It functions. It functions very well along the edge of the rules. And if we got into a situation that we weren't functioning, then we'd have to go back and really rely on those rules and nail them down. But
Yeah, it's an interesting, like I say, an interesting discussion. The other thing that I've heard raised is the only reason this was brought in was so the province could enforce those housing quotas, which still don't apply to Owen Sound.
correct. So they do require municipalities to make decisions and American veto decisions of council if they don't fulfill the provincial mandate. And mandate is to build homes faster, build more homes faster. So that's the mandate that they've downloaded, I guess, to the municipalities.
Yes, that's the word I've heard used, downloaded.
In a sense, that's what it is. For us, we want to bust our butts to attract as many home developers and build as many homes as we can because we've got a shortage of homes, we've got a shortage of rentals. So, our goals aren't any different than the provinces. It would have been nice to have had their money to support some of that for a small town that's trying to develop that home building. I've talked from the start that my goal is to attract industry, attract commerce, to attract jobs, then to attract labor to fill those jobs and to build houses for that labor to be in. So, full circle, you need all those things. And we've worked hard to attract industry and have industry expand and et cetera, and hire a lot of them that are already here. But we need the housing, and that's the next thing. And certainly we've done things like, and this might come up later, with development charges to try and get developers to build here faster and encourage them to move ahead and make it easier for them to build in Owen Sound versus wherever they've got other property.
Well, that's a perfect segue into one of the recent issues at a council meeting that there was a motion passed to waive development fees for a very large development project here in the city. That's called SkyDev, which is 700 plus rental units in the northeast end of the city. And just prior to that, I think there was a motion or a decision to spend a lot of money to basically put the sewer connections, water and sewer connections into that development. So that's the kind of thing that the council can do and is doing.
So a few years ago, okay, so development charges do not go into general taxes, just to give that background. They can only be used for growth-related costs. So water, wastewater, those things going in. We've never collected, other places are collecting $40,000 and $60,000 for development charges. And then they've got them to be able to put in the infrastructure. We didn't do that. In between 2014 and 2018, we waived all development charges to try and get things going and to send the message that we're open for business. We reviewed that development charge bylaw a few years ago. The province changed some of the rules of what we can collect on and what we can't. But the idea is if it's apartments, then we had a process. And so we approved the really the process that we had already approved as a council on this to waive them. But SkyDev will participate in the road rebuilding and the water and wastewater that will go in with it. So, they're covering some of the expenses that would have been covered by development charges if we had collected them. So it's not really. It's not a freebie for them, I guess, is the best way to put it, because they are putting money into water, wastewater, into the infrastructure that is needed to service that piece of property.
So basically, there's a quid pro quo here.
Yeah.
That we will do this if you will do that. We will do that if you will do this.
They're not necessarily tied together, but
No, but it's a partnership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I wouldn't call it. There isn't really a relationship. It's just the fact that we haven't collected development charges means that they have to participate over here. So it's they're not necessarily related, but in the long run, they are sort of related.
They dovetail. They dovetail. And that's fair. That's fair. But do you have any idea when they'll be? I hate to say it, moving dirt.
My sarcastic answer has always been, I'll know for sure when I'm cutting the ribbon to open the door. We're talking to them, and they're keen at that site to get going. We've got. It's been a very, very busy winter for planning department in the city of Owen Sound. So there's another one that, fees are paid and they want to get moving dirt this spring. That one, I think they want to get moving dirt and, got to get all the planning and everything together. And then, they're making steps to move ahead as quickly as they can. I think that one's going to be fall. But, I said that before COVID, and then we got hit with COVID. Interest rates got right, and then interest rates went up, and it slowed things down. So, anything can happen. But right now, I'm pretty confident that their goal is to, at that one, to move forward this fall, and another one to move forward sooner.
Well, you and I have conversed about developments south of 8th Street East, across from the hospital and the school. And I have to say, I did see culverts going in for access roads, for accesses into that property, which suggests that something's going to happen, maybe.
Yeah, no, I haven't talked to the owner there for a little while, and got an update. So I'm not. We were hoping that he'd go this spring too and start to put in the infrastructure there. Certainly out at Heritage Grove, we've got a grocery store going in, and there's some other plans to move things around. And unfortunately, Gary Goya, who is the owner of Heritage Grove, passed away a week ago, and we have become friends. He comes up for lunch once a year. We take turns buying, stay in touch. He's been ill, so I stayed in touch with him. And I think back to 2010, 2014, when I was first in council, and he came in and had, I don't know how many tribunal appeals going on that, and came up with a lawyer from downtown Toronto to present to council. And I said, what are we doing here? We all want this development. Like, why is this like litigation, and why are we fighting over it? And we eventually, came to an understanding of how we can move forward and support each other. And Gary absolutely loved Owen Sound, loved coming up to Cobble Beach and going out for dinner in downtown, and really loved this place. And it's his kids will take over. I'm confident that we'll continue. But I personally am going to miss Gary. He was a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, we don't hear that we all have this sort of image of developers, but at the same time, they're human beings.
Yeah.
And they're people.
Well, and when it came to doing business, he did business with staff. He didn't do business with me, and developers, of course, want to push that limit as much as they can to get as much done for as little cost as they can. And they push staff. And Gary for staff at times. There's no doubt about that. But, with me, it was just appreciating, that we're trying to attract jobs and attract taxpayers. And it was just, it was a different type of conversation than what his staff would have with our staff.
Right. It was more relationship, less business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear that side of it, because we don't often hear that side of it, because there are real people who are behind that, all these developments. Well, it will be absolutely fascinating to see what happens. I drive around town and I see this, that, and the other thing going up or not. And we shall see what we shall see, I guess.
Well, we're actually in good shape. Local Richard Graham Construction bought the property that was been half finished for 5 years, and our half finished started, I guess, would be a better description, across from in the bay, and we'll move forward with it. And I think he's got all his papers in and a lot of them approved, so that will move forward. So we're seeing a lot of good things going on, and again, I've been saying that for years, and we're waiting, but I think we're really close right now.
Agreed. I've been in this town 25 years. I've seen a lot of stuff come and go, and well, it's slow, but it's coming. And it's not the city I moved into, I'll tell you that.
No, and you look at Southbridge, you look at the number of townhouses and things that have gone up, whole subdivisions that have been finished in the last couple of years. I think Greenridge up, where's that? The one up towards the cemetery, I think only has 2 lots left in it.
Yes.
So filled out.
Woodland,
there we go. Greenridge is the old OCBI. Woodland, and then, they're proceeding with a property north side of the road next to the hospital on 8th Street East, with plans going forward there. And I think they've started to prepare the land for development. And so, that'll be the next one. So things are definitely happening here.
Which reminds me, the one across the street from that development, Red Hawk, which is sort of just to the east of the hospital, but across the road, they asked for a delay or an extension of their
site plan approval.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I probably said this before. They and their neighbor
Flatto
worked together to hire the engineer to design where the streets would go through, where the wastewater would go through, so they'd line up. And then I guess got their own engineers to look at it. But it didn't make sense for Red Hawk to go ahead. They can't really go ahead, and because of the way the streets line up, without Flatto going ahead. So they went and did other things elsewhere, and will be ready to go as Flatto goes. So neat to see developers working together, even though in some ways they're in competition to sell the house at the end of the day. They recognize that by working together, they can both take advantage of it, and that's pretty neat. So that's where Red Hawk is at.
And on that note, we will take a break because somebody wants to have a word with the viewers. So I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. This is Rogers TV.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
Hi, I'm Carol Merton, host of HealthLink on Rogers TV. HealthLink connects home, community, and healthcare with interesting topics and speakers about your health and your community.
Hi, I'm David Shearman. Welcome back. My guest today is Boddy, who is the mayor of Owen Sound. Yeah, we can still got a lot to talk about on my list. I'm sure Ian's got his own list, so stick with us. There's more conversation to be had. Let's go to another. I'll use the word controversial because all you've got to do in this town is mention the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, and people have opinions. I'll leave it at that. But I noticed that there is a headline, or it's coming to the meeting of the next Tom Thompson Advisory Committee, that they are going to have develop a standardized attendance tracking mechanism. What's your thought on that, Ian?
Well, first of all, I think the gallery is so important. The collection is absolutely amazing, and to have so many of Thompson's pieces given by the family, and I'm sorry, you can't just sell them on the free market. They're part of Canadian culture. In the last number of years, we've added a lot of George Thompson's arts, and George being also a local, absolutely the more prolific, mostly because he lived longer than Tom Thompson, but local. When you see his paintings, you recognize Grey County throughout them, and really special to have them in the art gallery, plus a number of others. So the art gallery is important, the tourism is important, and to be able to have the statistics of people coming through the door and not people questioning the statistics, actually having them, I think is important. It's important to be able to, when you're going looking for provincial and federal grants, to show the attendance there, and to show the people that are coming through and seeing what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize that a lot of the funding for the gallery comes from both provincial and federal grants, as well as from the city. So you got
and a lot of those. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
But a lot of those grants kind of comes with strings attached that, as to what you can show, and that can be frustrating. But yes, most of the money's coming from somewhere else, and people forget that our arena's 3 sheets of ice on top of the user fees, et cetera. The taxpayers pay about $1 million for those 3 sheets of ice, and concerts and other things. Municipalities in the business of providing services, and the art gallery is one of them, and the art gallery is a very big draw, and we're very lucky to have it. So we just updated the air conditioning system, or climate control would be more appropriate, because with art, you've got to maintain a certain humidity, certain temperatures, et cetera. So that hadn't been done for 30 years or 40 years, and that's been done and updated. And it's nice and silent, very nice system, and will prolong keep the art safe forever.
Yeah. You're mentioning of the 3 ice sheets reminds me of something that I forgot to ask about, and that is that the work being done down at the Bayshore. Has it started?
Well, we just had the home show down there on the weekend, and I wasn't able to get there, but I assume they were on the floor. So boards coming out, glass coming out, boards coming out, floor being jackhammered and lifted, and scrambled to get it back in by by September.
Well, it's going to be a busy summer at the Bayshore and a noisy one.
Yes, and a reminder that senior and major lacrosse will be mostly in Meaford. Junior B lacrosse will be down in Durham. I think if you go to their websites or follow them on Facebook, they're running buses. The seniors, I think, are running buses from Heritage Place Mall to Meaford for games, and it's. I really encourage everyone to support them this year, especially when they're, it's going to be a little bit harder to attract people to a few miles out of Owen Sound, but it's still a good product, and especially the junior Bs look pretty good, homegrown talent, and seniors will be good. And major, some of the best players in the world. It's like watching the NHL players playing summer hockey in a sense, that they'll play NLL in the winter and be playing major in Owen Sound and other places in the summer. So it's really good lacrosse. So I encourage everyone to go looking for it.
And it's only 40 minutes to Durham if you're driving yourself. It's only 30 minutes to Meaford. So it's doable.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about snowstorms and blizzards.
Hopefully not.
Oh, okay, climate change, but I do know that there was at least one attack game which was canceled or postponed.
Yeah, no, that happens in the winter and not so much in the summer.
Anyway, well, we look forward to the refreshed Bayshore when it's all said and done, and I guess September?
Hopefully, yep.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Yes, September, definitely.
Well, we'll watch. We'll certainly watch and see. That's for sure. Let's go back just a skip back a minute, because there was an important, and I'll admit, somewhat confusing conversation around the table around the hybrid county planning model. In fact, something happened to you, and this is definitely not a criticism. I think it was quite admirable that you actually stopped the meeting. You paused the meeting, and sought clarification of what was going on, what had happened, and you came back. And I have to say that's the mark of someone who both recognizes a predicament, but also knows that the expert is actually sitting across the desk in the city clerk.
Well, I thank you for that, but I can't take credit for that. I had to take a break because I had to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
But we've got one of the best clerks departments going, and I rely on Brianna so much to keep us on track. And we certainly did have a chat about what do we do now and what are our options. Mm-hmm. So we did take advantage of that break, but I can't take credit for stopping it to try and clear my head on that. That was that had happened while I needed a break.
Well, I'll be honest, Ian. That's both funny and realistic, because in this work, or this volunteer job that I do, you gotta kind of think ahead, and there are days when you wish you could take a break.
Yeah, and I have in the past run into those where I've just taken a quick break, and Brandon and I have gone out and had a meeting of the minds. Owen Sound has its own zoning, its own planning department, and everything's done at the city. And it's like that because we've always done it at the city, and just continued when the city rejoined the county in 2000, 2001, whatever year it was. The other municipalities around us, a lot of the zoning stuff, and some of it happens at the lower tier, local municipality. Some of it happens at Grey County. So it makes sense, as we've worked really hard at Grey County to try and find ways of working together. And, there's certain services that we all provide. Does it make sense that we're doing it 9 times, or is there a way that we could share services? We might have 3 people inspecting widgets, but there's only 2.5 widgets coming across, so you don't really need 3 people, but you're not going to lay them off. But maybe there's someone else that only has 1 person, and they've got 1.5 widgets coming across the desk. So, in theory, there'd be a way of sharing that. it would have to work for the city of Owen Sound because we're already doing all of our own stuff. And, I talked to planners from Simcoe and other places, and they're envious of what our planners are doing and how we're doing it within the city. So to move up to Grey County, we'd be giving up something and we'd have to be getting something back. So right now, the way the vote went, we're not continuing to move forward with Grey County. But if the others at Grey County continued to move forward and some reports came out at the county to everyone else that caught our eye at the city, we could, with a 2/3 vote, reconsider and rethink it if we had different information that we wanted to look at. So, it's not dead altogether, but we're not participating for now.
Sure. And that is the bottom line is just fine. It was a little messy getting there, but we're there.
Well, and I'm kind of in an odd position being a city councilor, being a Grey County councilor, because at Grey County, I moved and got unanimous support for putting together an ad hoc committee that will look at shared services, that will collect ideas from all across the county and review them and throw them back to all of the Grey County council first, and then eventually maybe the lower tiers and say, do you want to pursue this and look at it as a one office type of thing? And that's, coming back to my widget example of, and the same thing they're talking about is planning. Are there things that we could be doing together that we're not, that we should be?
Yeah. Well, we keep moving on and we'll just wait and see how it plays out.
Yep.
One of the interesting things that I noticed at the last council meeting, and you've used the word that was fun, was to honor our volunteers. And that was interesting to see because, one of the things I find this council does is it does lift up the volunteers, the people who do good things in our city, the people who enhance our quality of life in so many different ways.
Minor hockey would not exist without volunteer coaches. Minor sports would not exist without volunteer coaches, operators, runners. The hospital would not operate as well as it does without the blue vest running around, helping people get to where they want to go. From your life what a church would be without volunteers working in the church, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And especially a town our size, we really, really rely on the volunteer effort. Kiwanis, Rotary Club, Order of Good Cheer, Lions Club, like there's just so many that are doing such great work in this community. It's nice to be able to receive, you do, one senior, one or two volunteers, one junior volunteer, doesn't even scratch the surface of a number of people that need awards. And so it is fun and it is nice to recognize people and hear their stories and have them presented at council. And they come with their families and with people that back them from their organizations. And it is a fun night that, it's not all business all the time. So that's a nice one.
Sure is. And like I say, it's a great way to honor people for all the good that they do in this. And let's hope provide exemplars for others to jump on the bandwagon and to volunteer, because if we didn't have our volunteers, well, we could both go on and on with a total complete laundry list of organizations that are volunteer driven in this enhance our quality of life.
And since COVID, people got used to being at home, and the volunteers are maybe dropped off a little bit. I threw out an idea of staff of what would happen if we had, instead of a job fair, if we had a volunteer fair of every organization that's looking for volunteers and members, and we got people to come and visit and sign up. It's an idea that is still floating out there in the ether, but. If you're looking for something to do, need to get out of the house, just come to the community. There's so many organizations. Reach out and find out. It's it's just a great way to be part of the community.
Now, speaking of volunteer organizations, our Salmon Spectacular is a volunteer-led organization by the Sydenham Sportsman, and it's been what, 35 years?
I can't remember the exact number. It's been a number of years.
It's getting up there. It's old. It's not quite as old as me, but it's getting up there. My point is that there was a change brought to a recent council meeting around camping fees, and everyone knows that once in that 10-day period on the waterfront, both east and west, all of a sudden you've got a village.
Yeah,
and
it's
they've decided to regulate that.
It's such a neat event, and so many people come from all over to try and catch the fish or catch a fish, and then of course the fish fries that they often donate their fish back to. It's just wonderful for our area and tourism. Along each harbor walls, people are lined up. You got to pay money to stay in any of the campgrounds. And we still have to clean up the garbage and all those things after, and which is an expense. So we're going to charge a small fee to people that are camping along there. It doesn't cover the entire expense. The city will still be incurring expenses for some of the cleanup, et cetera. But it just helps out a little bit with a bit of a user fee and I don't think any of the fishermen are really going to complain if they've able to pull their trailer up to the side of the harbor and on sound, looking down the bay. Is there a better campsite anywhere? So it's pretty cool.
And one of the things this year is that we had one of the big lake boats sitting in there that needed to be moved.
That happened last year, yeah. Because the harbor isn't that deep, they take out all the ballast, which is mostly water, and if you go down and wander around, you can see the blade at the back of the boat. They need to sink the boat, fill it full of water to get the blade into the water and to stabilize the boat as they go out. So last year they had to move it from point A to point B a little further down the dock to be able to put the ballast in where it was deep enough to get the water into it, to get the blade into the water. Unfortunately, when they got the call that they needed to get the boat out and go and pick up, a load, was during the fish derby, and there's no way we could work around that. And we tried everything to see if we could get them to go, to the other side. We looked at every alternative. So right now, one of the boats is already out. The next one is still there, but it's supposed to be going soon according to rumors. I don't have real inside knowledge, but hopefully we don't have any lake freighters by the time the fish derby rolls around in August, unless they're coming into the grain elevators.
Right. Because that is federal land.
Correct. The harbor, it is a Transport Canada harbor. It's their harbor. The city leases, minimal, but leases the walkways along each side. Sort of that parkland area is maintained by the city. But it at the end of the day, it's a Transport Canada harbor, and they make decisions to operate it as they see fit.
I think that points up the how shall I say it, the difference between a working port and a leisure center or a park. To be honest, from the cement plant, from the cement storage north is all working port, and over on the other side by the grain elevators, it's a working port.
Well, and really the docks all the way in where they can dock for the winter.
Yeah.
Most of them want to be in Sarnia, and they'll have like 12 to 14 boats over the winter, and they'll be doing all the repairs and all the rebuilds in Sarnia. Those that can't get there, or they're too late, come into Owen Sound, and it's very good for the economy, for welders, for hotels, for engineers. People that come in to work in those boats over the winter. It's good for us.
And it's an important part of our maritime history. We forget that we are not just a maritime history city, but we are a maritime industry city with Georgian College.
Yes, the Marine Training and
Marine Training Center.
Marine Emergency Duties Training, engineering, power
Yeah.
engineering. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's go on to some other really good news, and that is that Owen Sound has been recognized again as a Tree City of the World by the Arbor Day Foundation.
Yeah, and I'm going to forget names, but members of the public came to us and said, why don't you sign up for this and go after this? And it means you have to plant X number of trees per year and maintain it. And certainly maple trees, and you think about so many really nice streets that are covered with maple trees this summer, and how that just makes our city so beautiful, and be able to add trees that certainly helps with climate change, etc., is important to us. So it's nice to keep that up and keep doing what we need to do to maintain the status as a tree city.
Yeah, it's from according to what I see, we were only one of 21 Canadian cities and only one of 210 worldwide. That's pretty good company.
Yeah, not bad for a small town, eh?
Yeah. And speaking of the environment, the big news is finally we are getting organic compost.
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah. So council first looked at it before 2010 when I went on it. It was going to be a lot of money and they couldn't swing it. And then we looked at it, I think between 14 and 18, 2014 and 18 again, and we still couldn't quite swing it. It was going to be a big tax increase. Well, the provincial government forcing the industries that make up blue box waste was producer responsible, or whatever the phrase is, to take over the cost of blue box. That freed up tax dollars that were there that we could apply. We had some reserves sitting for garbage trucks when we went to a contract that was still sitting there. We figured out how we could apply that to ease in the expense of organic waste, green bin pickup weekly, which will be really nice, and be able to afford it and finally bring it in. And credit to staff for being creative and figuring out a way of doing it. And it's been something that we've all wanted to do for a long time. I remember a few years ago, Blue Box, we were something like 68% of the houses used the Blue Box the way it should be used, which was a very high percentage. And we're really hoping we can get the same thing with organic waste, especially when we're picking it up weekly. It makes more sense to put that, takes an extra second to put it, source separate it, put it into that green bin and put your garbage into the one in between, and put your recyclable waste into the blue bin and put it out. And put it out more often. I think it's going to be a great benefit. It's definitely a great benefit to the globe, but it'll be a benefit to us here in Owen Sound.
Pro tip: don't put your compost out the night before.
Raccoons or skunks?
Raccoons, skunks. I've lived it.
Yeah, but that's the same with any garbage the way we're doing it right now, right? Because the compostable or organic waste is in your garbage right now, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. Do you have a definite start date yet?
Is it June 1st or is it July 1st?
I think it's June 1st.
It's coming really quickly. So watch for anything that the city's coming for, flyers coming with your tax bills, watch online stuff, we're trying to get the word out as much as possible. So I really encourage anyone that's living within the city of Owen Sound that's watching this to start looking for the information coming your way. And we'll be we'll be bombarding you with information, but it's up to you to read it and put it into practice. And we really encourage everybody to take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, it'll be new.
Yes.
Instead of dumping my morning coffee grounds in the garbage, they'll go into the organic, into the kitchen bin.
animal waste and a whole bunch of neat, neat things.
Speaking of which,
things that,
speaking of which, you have to use compostable poop bags for your dog or cat.
Yes, and that information will come out with the
Yeah, I mean, you can't just use the old an old milk bag or something, or clean milk, recycle a milk bag. Doesn't work.
No.
Got to use a recyclable poop bag. So, hey, it's something new, it's something different, and we'll just keep at it.
Yep, and I'll save my sarcastic line here because we're on family TV.
This is Rogers, Ian. You can say anything you want. Anyway, it should be an interesting, a year from now. It'll be interesting to see the results of this.
I'm confident in the community and the way we're going to pick this up.
I agree. The other thing that I have not touched on, and I should, is that you were honored to receive the Municipal Government Stewardship Award from the Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council at the Canadian Nuclear Association's conference in Ottawa. And that was quite an honor.
Very, 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 very much an honor. And it comes from working hard to try and get the Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition up and running. Chief Nadjuan and Chief Ritchie were honored first. And those guys are pretty heady guys, like just really smart guys. And then Stephen Lecce, Minister of Energy and Electrification, I think is the title, is the next one up. And I'm sitting there going, what am I doing with these people? And next one was Mary Ng, I think, as the retiring federal Liberal Minister of Foreign Trade, I think. And then I'm going, like, really, what am I doing here? After me was some of the brightest scientists and doctors and medical people working with lutetium and with isotopes in cancer treatment in Toronto at the hospitals. And so it's just a real honor to be recognized with those people, all the things that they're doing with isotopes and helping to make change and change the world. And this is because Bruce Power produces them, it's a great opportunity economically for here. But Canada has a history of supplying isotopes, medical isotopes, to the world. We've with a CANDU reactor, we can increase those things and explore more, and eventually, think about what we could be doing at a regional hospital that already has cancer treatment, and how we can work with other hospitals that are doing big research, Sunnybrook or
and with that, Ian, I'm just about to lose you, so thank you. Ian Boddy, Mayor of Owen Sound. Friends, thank you for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Join me this fall for more interviews with our local, provincial, and federal politicians. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Are you a passionate content creator ready to expand your audience reach? Do you have unique stories, captivating hobbies, or special interests that deserve a spotlight? Rogers TV is here to amplify your voice within the community. We offer you the platform to broadcast your content to a wider audience. And the best part, it's completely free. Don't miss this opportunity to share your vision and engage with viewers. Find out how Rogers TV can transform your content journey today.